I was just going with the flow, and it almost cost me something. And after 100 level, first semester I survived. I got some pretty nice grades. Second semester, no, not so good. So I sat down and said, okay, this is where you are now. I realized, it just came to me that I didn't want to keep having that kind of grades. And I just said, okay, I need to map out the plan. I need to kind of like have a target in mind going into each semester and say, okay, each semester I want to get minimum 4.0, and it comes from, and you won't get 4.0 just like that, right? It will come from every course you're taking, what's the target you're setting for each course. And so when I'm going into any course or any exam, I'm going with the target of, this is a minimum of a B in this exam, minimum,
Okay.
right? That if in worst case scenario, I want to get a B in this course. So that's really how, from 200 level, we just kind of changed how I approached my education generally and my life in OAU. And so that's kind of like how I just guided myself all through each level. And I would say, back to your question on when I knew I wanted to travel and all of that. So I joined LinkedIn somewhere in 2016 or 17. Yeah, I think 2017. A senior colleague just mentioned that, oh, join LinkedIn, see what's out there, see what people are doing. And I joined, and, I used to see people post, oh, I just started my PhD in University of this, I started my master's in the University of this, all of that. You just, subconsciously, you're getting that idea that this is possible. You can do this, and then I had a cousin. And so when I got to 400 level, I had somebody in my department then that was leaving actually to Canada. I was going to University of Saskatchewan then. He graduated from my department. And, he just came and interacted with my class and just let us know that, oh, so opportunities that are also out there for you guys. You could take advantage of this and that. But prior to that time, so shortly after that time, after that period, I got another. So I had a cousin in the US. He was studying for his master's in the US. And so when I was on my IT in 400 level, we spoke extensively, and he was just letting me know that, oh, you could go abroad as well for your master's and all of that. And, he just kind of corroborated what I heard just before I left for IT, from the other guy that finished in my department. And so that kind of just etched that mindset in me that, okay, this is what I want to do next, right? And even right before we eventually finished school, I could see one or two of our colleagues that just at the point where we finished in 2020, some already got the opportunity to leave just right after university. And there's somebody on this call that can bear me witness to that. We have Joshua here. Joshua Olasukomi OJ is also from OAU. So Joshua, who I'm talking about here, is Paulus. So Paulus left. His name is Paul, but we're both in 500 level. That guy was in chemical engineering, and Paulus left Nigeria in early 2021, just right after that COVID issue happened. He left, I think, January of 2021, and that was just give that more inspiration that, man, I have to lock in and do this thing. And so in 2021, I did apply to a couple of schools. The US, and my focus was on the US. So that's where the story even starts to get interesting. I wasn't thinking Canada at all. It was just US schools I was thinking of applying to. And also because, my cousin was in the US, right? So I was getting guidance from him as well, getting some, inputs. So my SOPs, like my standard statement of purpose and all of those things, helped me go through. I also had one or two, LinkedIn too. I was able to connect to one or two of our alumnus or alumni, if that's the right word, that also were able to travel out through the educational route. And so there's some of them to also help me to take a look at my SOP. We connected offline. I think I even organized like a program then for one of them to come talk to us during that COVID period, to my class, because I was like the class rep at the time when we graduated. And so we had that relationship going. So I had a couple of them too that I was reaching out to when I had questions and all of those things, right? In addition to my cousin at the time.
Okay.
So I shot my shot at a couple of schools in 2021. Anyone that's familiar with that period, there were a lot of application fee waivers going around because of COVID.
Okay. Wait.
Yeah. Okay. Am I going too far?
And no, before we enter that section, right?
Okay.
You have covered a lot of things, right? So just to recap, mhm,
Yeah.
when you started school, your BSc, right, your undergraduate, your first year wasn't really the best. Then after the first year, you now started to, put in more effort in your academics, right? And then in your later years, 2, 3, 400, that's when you now started to know, wait, people are traveling abroad on fully funded scholarship, right? You have your cousin, you have one of your seniors in your department, you're seeing different people on LinkedIn talking about fully funded scholarships, and that's where the idea started to come in, right? So, like for many people here too, maybe they've seen it everywhere. Everybody's online now, so especially if they're on LinkedIn, they would have seen plenty posts like that. Thank God, I just got this, I got that.
Pleased to share.
So that was where the information started coming in. And
Yeah.
for you now, right, you mentioned you had guidance, right? You mentioned how your cousin is in a fully funded scholarship in US, right? So he was guiding you. You have some senior colleagues who were also guiding you. And then you mentioned that you used to focus on fully funded scholarships in Canada, no, in US first.
Yeah.
Right? So now let's first talk about the fully funded scholarships in US, right? Then after that we'll move to Canada. Just
Okay.
to have an idea of okay, what is in US, how is it? Just tell us what will you say? Fully funded scholarships in US.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost similar to how it is in Canada. Like fully funded scholarship anywhere. It could not. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the US or Canada, or there are a lot of countries that offer fully funded scholarship. So all of these scholarships come in different ways, right?
Okay.
When we talk about the US one, it typically will come as a form of research assistantship or teaching assistantship, or a combination of both of them when you get that full funding. Typically, well, it can also come in form of what they call a graduate assistantship. That one could be that you're going to be working in a certain office in the school while studying, not necessarily tied to your research or academics. But the typical one, which is really the most popular one that is around, is always you getting it in form of a research assistantship or a teaching assistantship. So what we call RA or TA, or a combination of both. So basically, for the US, it's also a place where you could go from like a bachelor's to a PhD if you want to do a PhD. They allow you to just, you don't necessarily need a master's degree to apply for a PhD, program in the US. And usually, some schools will allow you to get your master's along the way. Maybe by the time you spend about 2 years out of the 5 years or more that you're supposed to spend doing your PhD, you get your master's degree. And then as you continue and complete your PhD requirements, then you get your PhD degree as well. And some schools it's just the express. You just have to finish the whole thing and get the PhD degree in the end, right? Not like you can get a master's along the way or in between. Um, so yeah, that's what I would say pretty much in terms of the US. The application is another ball game entirely, but in terms of the summary of what the opportunities look like, it comes mostly in form of that RA or TA, as I mentioned. There are a few, or the GA, which is the graduate assistantship, and there could also be some departmental kind of or school specific kind of scholarships that schools would have. Sometimes they could say, oh, in this application cycle, some schools can have something like, oh, some kind of scholarship for the best applicant from Africa, for instance. And so if out of the pool of applicants from Africa, you're the best when they evaluate you based on your, your credentials or your application package in general, they can say, oh, okay, this guy is the best guy. Maybe in addition to getting the RA, he can also get like that scholarship in addition. More money in your pocket for you, or more money available for you. And then typically, when you get those RA or TA or GA, they will typically come with what they call a tuition waiver. So a tuition waiver basically means that your tuition is waived and you now get paid what they call stipends. Not really salary, but they call it stipend. So it's just basically something that helps you to pay for your living expenses and whatnot already. Basically because the tuition is already taken care of by the university or the research funding that your professor has gotten. So eventually you get a stipend monthly thereabouts, which takes care of your living expenses. So that's kind of like the summary of saying something's fully funded, meaning you don't necessarily have to take anything out of your pocket. You should pay your tuition, so pay you some stipend for your living expenses. And if you are good at managing money, you might just be able to save some money as well out of that. So it all depends on where you're going, the expenses in the city. But typically they try to, balance your stipend to living expenses so that whatever you're earning is also decent enough to take care of your expenses in the city. Right. So that's why you see that even when you get offers, different schools will have different offer. Some might offer you, I don't know, 20,000 per year. Some other schools can offer you 25. Some can offer 30K per year. Depending on where they are located and what is the prevailing cost of living generally in that part of the, the city or the country. That would help. That kind of like this helps in helping them decide how much they offer as stipend, because they want you to earn something that can take care of your expenses, because they want your undiluted, attention and focus on either the research work or the teaching aspect of your work, right? So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. So for US, right, you're saying that the options that you can get fully funded scholarships in US as either a teaching assistant, a graduate assistant, or a research assistant. Okay, so now let's break it down. What's the difference between those three? Is there any difference, or is it just the name that is different?
Yeah, they are different. So research assistant, as the name implies, is just basically you would work with a supervisor, what we call a professor or a lecturer in Nigeria. Typically just call them professors. So you would work with a professor that is doing research in an area that you have shown interest in, pretty much. And then there's a research work which will also form like the dissertation or your thesis for the program you're taking. So if you're taking an MSc, whoever you're working with or has offered you that scholarship would be the person that will be your supervisor. And then whatever topic or anything or area of concentration you want to work on is probably an area that is definitely an area that that person works in. That's why he has even recruited you in the first place or accepted you into his research lab. And so what you'll be doing is whatever topic you guys decide on that you want to work on, that's what you'll be working on, right? During that research, the duration of your program. And then that's what you're getting paid for, that time that you're putting into doing that research alongside your program of doing your courseworks. And then in teaching assistantship, it's basically there's a party usually here. You have professors come to class to teach, and then you would have a lab component, most likely, especially if you're like on the engineering side, there'll be a lab component to some of or most of these undergraduate courses. So the lab component basically means that you will be the one to conduct lab for the undergrads. You will need to grade, exam, their exam sheets, their assignments, Some would even have what they call office hours. So office hours means like if those guys have some problem with some concept the professor has taught in class, you'll be the one they will come to say, oh, we don't understand this thing. Can you explain? So maybe every week there's a particular window in your calendar that will be opened that will be from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. At so room. Come here. If you have any issue, then we trash it out. So that's kind of like how teaching assistant go. And there are some that even go to the extent where you would actually teach in class to to those guys. You're not just going to do lab and grade and all of that and office hours. You actually go, you prepare your teaching slides and everything, and you go teach. And some also have tutorials, so there are also tutorials as well. So aside the normal class, there can be tutorials that is included in the course plan, and maybe once a week or twice a week that you also have to take and teach the undergrads as well. So that's what the teaching assistant is all about. And then the graduate assistant, which is not the most, is not very common like RA and TA. That one is sometimes, let's say let's say you're someone in the social or in the arts or science, social science kind of area. You could have like maybe in your university there's office of let me think about maybe office of it could be the office of certain maybe campus residency, for instance, just a typical example. Office of campus residency, like the office that deals with, the residence of students. They might need somebody that is kind of like an assistant in that office that would interact with students on a daily basis. Maybe students have complaints, they have this and that, they need help with. So in that case, you can be an assistant in that office, working in that office. You have your hours, your schedule set. Like maybe you're supposed to come in 4 hours every day or 2 hours every day. I don't know, depending on what the contract that you sign says. And then you work in that office pretty much like and whatever they pay you to in that role would also be sufficient or should be sufficient to take care of your expenses. It's the least popular route in terms of getting funding, but it also exists. It's just quite rare compared to the RA and TA pathway. Yeah, so that one would involve like working in like somewhat an admin kind of position, not really related to teaching or research directly.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that. Okay, so now from what you're saying, it's like this thing is real work. You are coming to work. It's not like cruise.
Of course, nobody's spending, no school wants to spend, or no professor wants to spend, such amount of money getting you here, giving you that tuition waiver. And tuition can be up to like 20,000 more in some schools, right? And so if they are paying that for you for a year or waiving it per year, you should be bringing in some value, some very good value as well. So when they are picking you, they see the potential in you that you have value to offer, and that's why they're picking you. They've looked at your application package. They think that you have that potential to succeed, in that endeavor, in that graduate school endeavor, and that's why they've given you that offer. So it's left for you to also, when you grab the offer, live up to the expectation that they have in mind. Right. Yeah.
Okay. 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 So thanks for that. So now we've spoken about US, right? Graduate scholarships generally, fully funded scholarships in US. And now we know that for US it's majorly how a research assistant, graduate assistant, teaching assistant. Graduate assistant is not common. So okay. So now for Canada, how is it different for Canada with fully funded scholarships in Canada?
Honestly, it's not so different. It's kind of like the same way, but I think what I've seen so far is there are more of that RA and TA here
Okay.
than the GA, which is the credit assistant. Most of the time people get here, all the people that I know came here as RA or TA or a combination of the two, you know, not with the GA pathway. And here too, they are also like, even in the US too, maybe I forgot to mention, there are also third party bodies that could also offer you scholarship. And one typical example is MasterCard Foundation. So I found that there's also that MasterCard Foundation that can offer scholarships to students from outside Canada, to depending on maybe your program or your school, and then you can get that scholarship, and you don't have to answer to any professor or anything really until you need to do your research and you need to look for a supervisor. But nobody is really tying you to a professor through that funding. They are the bodies that will provide you that funding and everything that you need. Some even go as far as providing you like laptops and air tickets and all of those things. So,
Okay.
but yeah, in Canada too, it's pretty much the same with respect to the RA and TA. The same thing. It be RA or it be a TA or it be a combination of both. And then in addition to that is those third party scholarships you could get. Some schools too also offer scholarship. There are some government scholarships as well, but they can be very, very, very competitive. And typically, you want to come in first. If you are in, then there will be opportunities to apply for more within the country now that you are in, for those kind of government scholarship. That's what I believe and what I think
Mm.
um, is usually the case. But the RA and TA is usually the way to get in. And then if you want to apply for more or get more scholarships, then when you get into your department or something, you'll see that every year there's going to be scholarships available that you can apply to uh, within. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay then. So now let's get into the real the real thing. Now we know scholarships are available. We know there are majorly two types, right? You is either a research assistant or a teaching assistant. If it's
Or
research
combination of both.
or combination of both. So if it's research assistant, you are majorly doing research with your professor. If it is teaching assistant, it's like you're an assistant to your professor. So if he's taking some classes, that means you too may take those classes. If he's doing lab work, you are going to be the one doing lab work for him. It's just you are going to be doing some teaching. Just prepare your mind. Right. Okay. So now, how do you start the whole process of application? Give us a breakdown of that process of I have this, I want to apply for this scholarship to I am inside the school.
Yeah, so that's a very, very broad it's a very broad question. And I would like to start with saying that it's different stroke for different folks. Um, our approach to getting it can all vary, right? What matters in the end is that you get it.
Yep.
So for some, as I said, you would apply and I'll give a kind of little differences too that exist,
Okay.
especially with the US that I found with the US is
Okay.
some schools, when you're applying, they say you need to get a professor or a supervisor first in our department that wants to supervise you for your master's or PhD thesis before we can even admit you.
Mm.
So typically that kind of situation, you need to go and first get a professor. And that's where cold email comes in, right? You need to now do cold emails and get somebody that is willing to take you on. And typically that person is the one that provides the funding for you. And so when you get that person, then you now apply to the school.
Okay.
provided you also meet the admission requirement of the school. And the other case is the school says, no, don't contact any professor, just apply, and then we decide who gets funding based on the pool of applicants we get. And we say, oh, okay, some will get admission with no funding, some will get admission with funding. It now depends on the school to decide that. The admission committee will decide that on their side. And you have a lot of that happening in the US. But I find that here in Canada, usually the case is always get a supervisor first, then apply to the school. Or in the US, you can have that approach, or you could have the approach where you just say, apply, we pick who gets funding ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So, and usually when it's that case where they are picking who gets the funding, they will now give you teaching assistantship, most likely as your form of funding to start. When you get in, you might not get a research supervisor. After you get a research supervisor, your funding means can now switch to research assistantship. But to get in, you get the teaching assistantship first, if the department is the one offering you the funding. Because the department controls how many TAs they are hiring for every semester or for every year, for each courses and all of that. So they will provide that funding through that means. And then when you get in, some will do something they call like some kind of rotation. So you rotate through some labs in the university, depending on the professor you would like to work with. And then you just get a feel of what they do in each of those labs. Then you can decide on which professor you want to work with eventually. And there's somewhere is the professor that gets you in, so to speak, right? So if we are focusing on the Canadian one, which is usually the case of get a supervisor before you apply to the department, you want to start by getting a professor. So the first approach is to first identify the schools you want to apply to based on your research interest. So if you're in mechanical, your research interest could be in robotics, it could be in manufacturing, it could be in material science, it could be in fluid dynamics, it could be in HVAC, that's heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So a couple of different research areas like that. Even environmental is getting into mechanical engineering now, environmental related stuff. So you first determine what area of research do you want to do, or do you want to take part in. When you decide that, then you go ahead to now start to research each schools that have that area of research. And now that is to go on each school's website, go to their departmental page of the department of your interest and say, okay, when you go on those departmental pages, you will find all their professors there, you find their research areas there. Some would even go as far as telling you if they are recruiting new students or not. And then you can know which one is trying to get more students, what they are working on, or what they are hoping to work on, as to why they are trying to recruit a new student. So when you identify those people, and you need to shoot them an email, which you call the cold email. So you compose your cold email. There's also different techniques to doing that, just to try to show that, that's the reason why they call it cold email is just basically because you don't know this person never talked to you, you don't know each other. You're just trying to establish, some kind of communication. So it's basically you pitching yourself to the person and saying, well, this thing you want to do, this research you are looking for a research assistant for, I have interest in it, or I've done something related to it before. I think I have the value that you're looking for. I have the skills or the potential to learn the skills that you're looking for, and do a very good job. So you would pitch yourself in that email, and usually at the end you attach your undergrad transcripts and maybe your academic resume. And if you have publications too, you would have inputted that in your academic resume, right? So basically something like that. That's the summary. Then you shoot that email, and it now depends on if they respond to you. So if they respond to you, then the luck is on your side. You're about to get started on your journey, and it's a positive response too. If some will respond and say, oh, I actually don't have funding right now, or check back in couple of months, or you can get a negative or positive response, and you can get no response at all, which is mostly the case. Then there will be no response at all. And there are also situations where the supervisors themselves are looking actively for students, and maybe they will post it on their LinkedIn or post it on, Twitter. Some even go as far as posting on Twitter nowadays. They will post that they are looking for students, for those that are active on, on Twitter. So because for me, I got mine. I saw this advert on LinkedIn.
Oh,
The professor posted it and said he's looking for students, blah blah blah. And that was how I went ahead with it, and sent my own email in. So you send that email in, lucky for you, you get a positive response. They probably want to interview you and say, okay, this person that sent this beautiful profile, let's even hear him speak. Let's see him present us. Some would want in that interview, some are just looking to get a feel of your personality, who you are, your background, and everything. Some want to see the research side of you. So they will say, oh, come to this interview, prepare a short presentation on your previous research or your undergrad work, your undergraduate thesis or final year project, and let's just see what you got. And that's what you come with to the interview. And if you impress them and the person thinks that you're up for the job, they'll probably offer you that position, and everything just goes from there. So once they say, oh, go ahead to apply, I want you, we can work together, we'll offer you, of already, if they put an advert out themselves, they would have already said, oh, it's fully funded, you'll be a research assistant or you'll be a teaching assistant, you'll be a combination of both. They would have given sort of those details. And the interview is also an opportunity for you to ask those questions. They are not just asking you questions, you also have to ask them questions. There's also another different ball game of when you interview or after your interview and it looks like you're getting that offer. Some people also advise that you investigate, because working somewhere is a two-way street. It's not just you working there. You also want to make sure the environment is really conducive for you, right? So some people want to investigate and say, oh, this professor, who are his students before? Who has he worked with before? Do they have good things to say about him? So that you don't get here and fall into that situations. So such situations have happened before, where people come in and they are in a lab they don't like because the work culture is not good. They are under pressure all the time. There's too much workload and all of those different issues. But if you have gotten the chance to interact with people that have been in that lab before, it's an opportunity for you to get to know what the work culture is like in the lab, so that you know what to expect when you kind of get here, and you're not just thrown into, uncertainty and a different situation that you did not expect when you were, accepting the offer. So, I mean, just pretty much like a job offer too, right? You want to ask around to and say, how is working at this place? It's not a place that I'll get to, and my manager, I will have a manager that is a pain in the I will not use that word. And all of those kind of interesting things that happen. So you can also do your investigation if you already kind of see that that's where I'm going, this is the school I'm going, this is the lab I'm going, and see if you get some good information on the culture and everything. I know we're always very excited. Oh, finally I got the offer. But if you can do those investigations, it could save you. It could make or mar you sometimes. So you get that offer, so then you go ahead and apply to the school.
yeah.
You meet the requirements, they give you admission as soon as they can, and then you go ahead to the visa stage. You gotta apply for visa, you get approved, and then you travel down. And then you get introduced to another life entirely.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have covered a lot in that short space. Thank you. Thank you. So now you mentioned the first thing is you need to have a field
Yeah.
that you are pursuing. Like you need to pick a field. So you can't just assume I just want fully funded scholarship. Give me any field that we study. So You need to have your own field first, field of interest that you have picked. And two, you must be able to show some work you have done in that thing,
Yeah.
right?
It's helpful if you have some work. There are some situations where you don't have that, but you can just show via some other means that you are still up to the task. So sometimes you don't have that previous experience doing. You might have done your undergraduate research, and I'll go back to mechanical in, let's say, in robotics or in um, uh, air, aerodynamics, for instance, and then you want to switch. Maybe you looked at it, I didn't really like what I did in my undergrad. I want to go to robotics this time. So you might want to pivot as well when you want to go for graduate studies, maybe your master's or PhD. That's allowed, but it also deals the shows that you need to show them, still show them if you did some work in aerodynamics, for instance, still show them what you did, but still say, oh, I'm looking to switch, right? Because it's still the same habit or what do I call it now? It's still the same you, right? They just want to see that you're ready to put in the work to that new place you're transitioning into. Whatever you did in aerodynamics, for instance, is still a record of the work you have done. And if it's a good work, it shows that potential that you could also do good work when you switch to robotics, right? So it's not every time that you have work examples or you have done something in that line. If you have done something, sweet, perfect. But if you have not, it doesn't mean entirely that you can still pivot. You might just need to put in extra work. Or if you're able to, some people go as far as trying to go back to their undergrad school and doing some work with one or two professors there just to show us, oh, I've actually gained some experience doing research in this line I'm trying to pivot into. So, I mean, it's there's a lot that you can do on the background to kind of make yourself marketable and just because again it's a game of many people are competing for this sport. That's just the truth. Professors would receive, even without putting out adverts, they will receive maybe in a week they can receive up to 10 or 15 cold emails from people from different parts of the world. And remember, it's not just Africa people are applying from, people are applying from other continents, right? So
From
and they
this,
have to, and they are receiving all these emails, and for them to single out one out of 100 or 120 or 200 applicants, or single out two or three that they want to hire, it's a lot of work, and you just gotta stand out someone for them to eventually, grab you.
okay. So following that, right, pick a field. You need to have some evidence of what you have done, right? And for the application, there are two ways. It's either the school wants you to find a supervisor first, right? Go to the school website, find supervisor, code email, or you apply to the school directly. The school will match you with a supervisor or whichever one, right? So those are the two routes. And then there's a way of writing the code email, right? Which is how the supervisor will read that email and say, hey, I like you, let's talk.
Yeah.
Okay. And after the code email, you have the interview session when you and the supervisor now talk. And that's like the determining the final one, whether you pass or you don't pass, or whether supervisor wants to work with you or not. And after you have the interview, then you expect a response, right? If the response is positive, then you also now have to do your own research on the supervisor or the work environment so that you know what you are getting yourself into, right? So it is possible to speak with previous students of the supervisor, right? Okay. I have a question. Let's say after this question, so everybody, please, you can drop your questions in the chat and I can help you ask. Um, let's say you do your research after the supervisor has given you offer.
Yeah.
and everywhere choke. They say this man difficult to work with, this man with this man that. What will you do? Can you refuse any offer?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's an offer, right? It's left for you to accept or reject.
Somebody that wants to leave the country or fully funded.
Yeah, you want to, but you can tell that if someone has picked you now, another person can definitely pick you. And if you're getting the wrong signal from everything you're trying to your investigation, then it's best that you really, really believe those, signals and
Mm,
run for your life. Right? Because you don't
okay.
want to get in and you'll be frustrated and depressed and whatnot because graduate school doing research itself is tough. Not to now add the burden or the headache of not having somebody that is understanding or whatnot, working to be working with somebody that is not good to work with, has a very bad work culture. Um, so in my opinion, if you get very bad, you know, um, um, feedback when you make your investigation, just let it go and give it another shot again. Did
This one is quick question by the side. How many cold emails did you
I send?
send before you go, and how many responses did you get?
Huh? That's a good question. So I'll go back a little bit to give context here. As I said in the start, my focus initially was on the US. So when I started NYSC in 2021, I said, okay, between 2020 and 2021, I did try out some application. They gave me admission, no funding. So I just kind of went past that stage and said, okay, I want funding, right? I want funding. I can get it. So when I was going into NYSC in somewhere around mid 2021, I was going with the mindset of I want to write GRE, I want to write TOEFL to just kind of like boost my profile and have better chances of applying to many places. Even though schools then were waiving GRE and TOEFL, it still never hurts you to have it at the time.
Okay.
So I was planning to write that during my NYC. And so that preparation was what I went into NYC with. And I was preparing and I already shortlisted schools. So I started sending my cold emails, I think somewhere close to September, October of 2021. I started to send my cold emails to those schools. And as I said, Canada wasn't on my map at all. It wasn't on my radar. Um, but someday I was on LinkedIn and I stumbled upon this post. I think I actually saw the link on a particular scholarship group I was on. And then I, went through it and went on LinkedIn. So it's okay, this thing looks interesting. I could give it a shot. And I sent that cold email. Even though, to be honest, I didn't expect it was like the least expected. Let me put it that way. Because this person was working, I come from mechanical background. This person was looking for somebody with very heavy material science background or metallurgy background. Um, but I still sent my code email anyway because I felt like some of my undergraduate thesis was kind of related to some of what he was saying, even though I was in mechanical. And that brings me to the part that sometimes our courses nowadays can be interwoven. So you can be in chemistry, but you could have somebody doing work related to your interest in pharmacy, for instance. It doesn't mean you can't kind of like still create that bond and see if your degree can turn out to not be in chemistry. It can be in pharmacy. I'm just giving as an example. I'm not saying that's what will happen, but I'm just trying to make people open-minded, especially when you have a research interest that can be something that is between different departments. So you can have you're in mechanical, your research interest is in material science. You might have to apply towards material science department, not necessarily mechanical department. So your degree eventually, your master's can be in mechanical, I mean in material science. And it could also be in in mechanical still, maybe because they have a professor that does work in material science. So you just kind of like have to be open-minded to and not just focus, kind of like know if your research interest is something that cuts across a couple of departments. And so when you're checking out professors, you can check across those departments. You don't have to also always stay in the one that is your undergrad, degree, right? Biochemistry, I'm only looking at biochemistry, professor. You might find out that your research interest also cuts across somebody in chemistry, right? Or somebody in microbiology, I'm just saying. So that's just by the way. So I was, reading for GRE and amassing my code email. I used to prepare my code emails, I think every weekend, set them up to send by Monday morning, US time, and all of those things. So I was sending maybe like 2 or 3 every week or 4. I can't remember exactly, but I had my schedule, I was following it and sending, but no response. 1 or 2 that will respond, no availability, no, they're not recruiting, or no funding, kind of thing. So, but I just saw that one that Sunday. In fact, I sent my code email on a Sunday to this the professor, eventually got the offer with. And a couple of maybe 2 weeks later, he replied me, said, "Oh, would like to meet you, blah blah blah." And he wanted to meet me the following day. So I tried to because he said, "Oh, in this interview, I want you to present your research or what you've done before, or pick one of my research areas, read about it, and come and tell me what you understand from what you've read."
Following day.
Yeah, for the interview.
And you said the following day.
Yeah, the following day. So I tried to ask, can you give me some time? I was like, I would have loved to, but there were going to be 2 that were going to interview me. I was like, oh, the second person is not available. After, like, the following day was when that person was available, something like that, right? So it just had to happen.
Okay.
And so I had to quickly, prep my slides and all of that. So I had my undergrad presentation slide, like when I did the project defense. So I just tweaked that a little bit and, went for that interview the following day. And I remember that interview turned out to be around 11 p.m. Nigerian time because it was 7 hours or so difference in time. It was 4 p.m. on the side. It was like 11 p.m. for me. And I remember I was lucky enough. They didn't take like NEPA didn't shame me. I was so lucky in that. And then I had 2 internet. I had my own internet and I had my brother's internet, all set up, ready to go in case one falls off. So you just have to cover your bases and do all those things to just make sure that you show up and show up well, right? And yeah, and that was it. I did that interview on a Thursday. Friday afternoon, I got the offer. That was it for me. And so I pretty much just closed the chapter to applying to other schools at that point. And that was just pretty much like the beginning of the application season. For people that are familiar with application cycles, so to speak, that's around the time where people are sending that cold email, applying, submitting the application. So at that point, even before really pretty much the application season got really intense, I got the offer already, the following day. And then by November 2021, I had my admission letter, everything all set. Right. So I applied for my visa January 2022. But my visa took a while, but I got a visa in June, finished up advising in July, and I traveled in August.
Yeah, no.
So that's pretty much my own story.
And the rest they say is history.
So yeah.
Okay. So thank you for that. I think now I'm looking at the time, but also there are 2 questions in the chat box, or 3 questions. And I also want to ask, now we've touched how to apply, right? Or the whole process of applying. Or can you provide one-to-one guidance? So, different people have different case and they're trying to get that
Answers to their question.
answers to their questions, or more like even expert opinion, right? This is your case, but be like, you have gone through it. You be like, what do you think about this my case? Or is there a way I can package this my case to make it look more attractive? That kind of thing. And then second thing is how to send cold emails. right? Because definitely there are ways to do it. It's not everything cannot be luck, right? There are ways you write that in and then it looks like this guy is on point, right? So are you open to like coming later to do like a case to case, one to one, you know, guidance, right? Okay, oh, tell me your case. I want to study. I studied this before this, what I do, and how to help them write that code in it. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. That's fine by me. I'm happy to come back and help
Okay.
as much as I can. So yeah, it's okay.
Okay, then. So that means we'll set up another section where we just go straight into those two things, right? People who about their own case will come and then you can provide guidance. So
Yeah.
if you're happy about that, please give me a response. Let me see your is it yeah, whether you're happy, your laughter, your smile, your something. I need to get a response. You people don't want them to come and do one to one with you. Okay. So that way we'll create a time and then you can just unmute yourself, come and talk about, oh, this is my case. What can you do? What should I do? I've been sending this email. This is my write-up. Which one should I take? Should I change this or should I leave it this way? That this type of one-to-one things.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. We'll pick a time. We'll communicate that in the community. Just to ask, are we all in the community? If we are not, we can just drop the link to the community so they can join. Everybody can join. Okay, so now to the last three questions. Let me start with the last one. Can 2-2 do Canadian schools accept 2-2?
Um, to be honest, I would just outrightly say no. And it's because of what I have seen. Even if you want to pay out of pocket for your masters, it's still hard to find anyone that would accept 2-2, at least here in Canada. Most of them always require their 2-1. Now, 2-1 self now has grade in a way. There's a 2-1 of 3.5 and above. There's a 2-1 of 4 and above, you know. So the higher it is, the better for you. However, I think in the US, there are a couple of schools that accept 2-2. However, again, is one of the things you can do, and one of the ways you can look at it too. So let me just give you another scenario here. Is typically I find that the schools will say, oh, minimum of 4 out of 5 in your last 2 years, for instance. So you see a couple of schools will say something like that in their requirement. So meaning what they are looking out for is not the whole 5 years if you study the 5 years, because they're looking at your last 2 years. So you can have 2-2 in general or at the end, but maybe it was just your first 3 years that were bad and your last 2 years were really good, right? With those last 2 years, if the school's requirement is in that is structured in that manner of they are focusing on the last 2 years, then you could still have a chance there if you meet that one. So it's about looking at your transcript and seeing what you have and seeing what the school is actually requesting for. So if the school specifically mentions, oh, 4.0 out of 5 in your last 2 years, for instance, then it gives you that and you meet that. But your overall GPA in itself is 2-2. You can still get a chance there because they are focusing on the last 2 years, if you get what I mean. Another thing people do sometimes that is to do West evaluation. That's for people that are familiar with that. That's a word evaluation services. That's what they call them. So what they do is they evaluate your transcript from the Nigerian GPA into the North American GPA, which is typically always 4.0. So from the 5.0 to 4.0 scale. And then sometimes we find that people tend to have so it's not just a direct conversion. Let's say you get 3.5 out of 4. When people convert that to a 4.0, some people just do 3.5 out of 5 times 4 and get the 4.0 equivalent. Sometimes it's not just direct like that. When they do the evaluation, they look at all your grades in each of your courses and they assign the North American equivalent to it, right? So I found that sometimes people would have slightly higher than expected eventually. That might push you into that. So 4 out of 5 is somewhat like 3 out of 4 for them. So you would find that some would eventually get pushed into that 3 out of 4 zone, even though they had a 2-2. It happens sometimes. So you might want to also look at that. And there's free West evaluator as well. Go to West, just search West free GPA calculator. Try it out, see what it looks like. If it's seeming like there's hope that it might jump up, the free one is not obviously the most accurate, but it gives you an idea of what yours will look like. And I think I'll actually maybe do that on my own side as well and compare, because I have the official one done. I did that recently, and I can do the free one and compare the accuracy of both of them and see which one is, what's the difference, what's the gap between the free one and. But anyways, it's just something that you could give it a shot. Try that. So try West evaluation. Check schools requirements if you're looking out for like last 3 years, even though you have 2-2. The last 2 years or 3 years might have been good enough to meet the requirements. Yeah.
Okay. So
but other than that, if in general,
yeah,
the 2-2 is the 2-2. I really doubt it. But in the US, I think there are a couple of schools that still are good with 2-2. So, like I said, 4.4 out of 5 is kind of like their 3 out of 4. There are some schools that will take 2.75 out of 4. So that kind of like can bring it to that 2-2 range or something. So yeah, you need to look out for those schools that have lower requirements, which in the as to be factual, there are not so many schools here in Canada, right? So US has so many schools, so many. And so there's just that ability to probably find what you're looking for. Your diamond in the rough, depending on your situation. You might still be able to find a school that would give you that funding despite, your situation. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So 2-2 is just you have to look for more things to do to make you.
It just limits you, and so I like to tell people that you cannot don't underestimate the place of academic or whatnot, because like is in the end it can separate you from first separate you. Other factors can come in that they look at during admission, but the fact that the person already, one is first class, one is 2-2, already kind of separates you. First, that person can apply to more opportunities than you, just by virtue of the fact that they have a higher CGPA than you. So that's why the place of that academic excellence is still kind of non-negotiable, even despite the narrative we see nowadays. It's still, even in job applications or whatnot, people too can still testify to it that you see some. I heard that there was this thing on Access Bank recently where they were saying their own 2-1 is now 3.9, not 3.5 or something like that. They put out some job advert recently and they were putting 3.9 as their 2-1.
Yeah.
And what is the last above, but they said 3.9 and above instead of 3.5. So yeah, you just see that it's just the reality of the world. And if you meet those things, it just makes opens you up to better opportunities and more opportunities to apply to, more pool or bigger pool of opportunities to apply to compared to someone that has a lower,
Okay.
stuff. Yeah.
So 2 more questions here from the chat. Olaoye says, please, what do you have to say about a school that does not request an applicant to reach out to supervisor, but their application form has form for applying to a program and scholarship together?
Yeah, that's part of what I mentioned, right? That would be the case where this, the environment says, don't worry applying to bothering any professor, just apply. So that one is left for the admission committee to decide who they think. When they look at their pool, if they want to pick 20 people to fully fund,
Yeah.
when they cut off at their 20th, that's it, right? It's based on the admission requirement and the criteria they set as an admission committee. They
Okay.
decide that. So it will just be a place of you submitting the strongest application you can ever submit. So, you know, your SOP on point, your academic resume on point. If you have very nice achievements, publications, GRE, TOEFL, all those things. If you have all those things, you just
Oh
put
wait,
it together in your application when you're submitting.
did you write GR? Did you eventually write the
Yeah,
GR?
right. It's because I mean I didn't write TOEFL by OGI because I paid my money already. Even though I had gotten my scholarship, everything set before the exam date. Um, I had paid, so I just said, might as well spend my money.
Okay.
So I wrote it. But I
Okay.
won't say what I scored.
Last question. And I think this is more of a case by case. And this is one of the things you will handle in the one-to-one session, right? Because Shay has put his some things here, but I think most times the owner is the best person to explain their situation. But I will read this out and just give us a mm, quick idea of what you think of your own opinion, right? So I had my BSc, MSc in biochemistry, graduated in MSc 2016. Since then, I've been working in international NGO as both data analyst and information management specialist. So BSc, MSc is biochemistry, but he's working as a data analyst and information management specialist. He wants to go back for PhD in biochemistry or MSc in data analytics, but wants a fully funded scholarship.
Yeah, for sure. You have so in this case you have two evidences. You have the work evidence, you have the academic evidence. So it depends on what route you want to take. If you want to go for chemistry, then you would rely more on your master's and bachelor's side of yourself, in packaging yourself. But your data analytics too cannot just be thrown out the to the bin, right? Even in biochemistry applications, because it could still matter in the world we have today. In what Because you could go into bioinformatics or biostatistics. One way you can kind of like marry them is to do things like bioinformatics or biostatistics.
Yeah.
You have that bio whatever background, you
Mm-hmm.
have analytics background, you can marry them together and do something in biostatistics. That's
Yeah.
also a very good intersection, right? The bioinformatics. I know there are other bio, whatever. So we can look in that direction, not necessarily streamlining it and saying, and you still use your skill in data analytics in even those bio, whatever, you know, um, and it will make your application kind of really solid because now you already have that academic and work experience marrying those two fields together, right? So biostatistics, bioinformatics, those are very good areas to look into. But if you're specifically wanting to do data analytics or biochemistry,
Yeah.
then as I said, you would lean into your the bachelor's and master's for the biochemistry side and lean into your work experience for the data analytics side. And departments who would make decisions case by case. And it depends on how strong you can make your case for yourself when you're applying to, right? You can make a case for yourself to show how biochemistry ties into data analytics that you're doing and all of those things, and still show that relationship between those two fields and why you want to go for the next stage, either in data analytics or in biochemistry. So that's kind of like what I would say. But there are, of course, situations where people are from. I think I've seen people go from mechanical engineering bachelor's, but worked maybe in business or project management and is able to go get a PhD in something related to business. It's possible. People do it. Uh, Again, it will be a sort of like somewhat a case by case, situation where um, it's better to talk to someone that's gone through that kind of route for sure, because I didn't go through that route, so I can't say much to that um, in that regard. But it is possible. It's just about knowing, especially if it's the case where you're reaching out to professors yourself. You just have to be able to make a case for yourself, and then they see you for, okay, this person, even though he's from biochemistry, he has totally transitioned and built skill in data analytics and able to be able to do this work. So
Okay. So I think it's almost time is going fast, 1.5 hours already. I don't want to keep
how
us.
many hours was this supposed to be? Is it 1 hour?
1 hour plus. We are
Okay.
still in track, 1.5 hours, but we don't want to go over that. So the next step now is Muyideen, Miss our mentor, has agreed to do a one-to-one, a case-by-case analysis, a cold email session, right? And this is more of like a one to, where you have to unmute yourself, talk about your case, and then it gives you some feedback. Okay, do it this way. And then you want to, oh, this is my code email. I've been sending it. Nobody's responding. How do I change it? Then it gives you advice on how to compose that code email. Or if you even have like other questions regarding this professor, that professor, or which school to go, which school should I target in Canada? Because he is in Canada, he has an idea of the schools you want to go. It's just like somebody who is not in Nigeria and is applying to schools in Nigeria. You will see University of Ibadan, you will see OAU, you will see University of Abuja, you will see Afe Babalola. But somebody outside will not know which school to pick for which course, right? Based on the name, you think I can apply to any school. But we that we are in Nigeria, we know if you apply to certain schools, it's not for your good. So those type of nuances is able to help you with that and say, okay, well, for this thing you are doing, go to this place. This place is better because after scholarship, right, after school, you need to find work. That is another reality.
Uh, everything is in stages, right? Your aesthetic is getting it. You get in, you want to finish the program and get into the workforce. Then the headache of getting into the workforce comes in.
Mhm.
And to be honest, if we are very, 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 conscious of how we plan things, we should think about the end, right, so to speak, and think about what's going to happen when I graduate with this degree. What can I do with it? What's the situation like for me to work with this degree, maybe in that country or move to another country? Do I have to go back to Nigeria? All of those questions too are kind of things you need to think about when you're picking, because there are people that would eventually end up with multiple fundings. Some can get something in Europe, get in Canada, get in US, and they're trying to decide, where should I go? Where's the best one for me to, pitch my tent? So all of this, what is life after school, can help you make those decisions as well.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, right? Because after your scholarship, you will finish school. When you now finish that school, that's when another level will now start, right? If you are in the based on your location, your experience will differ. So that's why you need to even think about the location first, right? And he can guide you with that, help you with those information about location. So you are putting yourself, setting yourself up for success and not for headache by the time you finish the fully funded scholarship, right? So that also is there. And so he has agreed to come and have this session with us again. So we'll put that in the community. If you don't have the link to the community, please join the community. That's where we have all the information, all the discussion. Like it's a community for you guys. And I'm just going to throw this open to just one last person. Oh, sorry, not one last, one lucky person, but this is a final. Just one person you want to say something, there's something that's on your mind you just want to quickly touch before we end this session. Just one. One person, you can mute yourself. Just one. Just one. One person. The lucky person. There's something in your mind you want to say, you want to ask a question.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Muyideen.
Hey,
Please, can
hi,
you hear
brother.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can
Yeah.
hear you. I can hear you. Go on.
Yeah. So thank you for what you have shared with us so far. So what advice will you give another graduate who is still on 4.26 over 5? So what advice will you give such a person, like me personally, sir?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you want to do with your grade at the end, but of course, that's a good one, and it can only get better if you can keep pushing it up before you graduate. For sure, keep pushing it as much as you can, and start kind of thinking about what maybe research area. If you really want to go the scholarship route, again, some people just want to finish school and go work. And that's absolutely fine. Everybody has different goals. They have different things that they're pursuing in life, right? Um, but if you want to go study abroad through scholarship route and everything, now is the time. As you are getting that good grade, start thinking about the kind of area of research you want to work in. What can you do to start boosting your um, credential or your profile in general in that area? You need to start collaborating with some people on doing research work and start getting some very good experience so that maybe by the time you're done with school, you have one or two publications to your name. That would be a good one to start thinking about now. It never hurts to have that. Um, do you want to start looking at the different scholarships you could apply to, or even identifying schools that you could apply to based on your research interest right now, so that you have all that logged in, and once the time comes for you're done with school and everything, you can just start shooting your shots here and there, right? So you have that prior information, you have that head start right now to start thinking of what you want to do after and how you want to achieve it. So you can start to think about talking to people too that have gone through that same path. I think that's always the easiest most of the time, to look for somebody that's gone through what you're trying to go through and just learn from them. And it just makes your life easier. You don't have to go figure things out on your own, right? So that's kind of like why we're on this call as well. So I hope that helps.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, Mr.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so Abdullah is the lucky person. And in final, right, funded scholarship is about academic excellence, whether you like it or not. It's a school you are going to. What do they do in school? You read. So if you don't like reading, what are you doing in the place? Whether it's through research or teaching, you are going there to read. You are not going there to go and play. That's just it. So you need to, if you know you are not academically inclined, you can't read for long, your book is not your friend, don't stress. Because where you are going, you are going there to read, even though you will do other things, but your first job is to read. So, and then pick a field, right? If you are not sure about the field to pick, we invite different people different fields every month. So this month we have Mr. Muyideen from mechanical. So if there's anybody in mechanical engineering who is, who needs guidance on things mechanic, or sorry, things technical related to mechanical engineering, then he can talk to you about the fields, which are the different areas. And if, let's say, you are in data analysis, you're interested in data analysis. Last month we had someone from a Fortune 500 company, like companies like Google, Meta, who is a data analyst in that company. They came and talked to us about the fields in data analysis, how to enter, what should I learn, what should I not learn, because so many people are learning different skills. So we constantly bring people in different fields who can provide different guidance for you. So stick around, join the community. And Mr. Muyideen has said is going to be available for a one-to-one session. It's going to be a small session, let's say like 40 people. The first few people who are able to get in are those who get in. There's nothing about it. So you have to also take it serious. And he's going to provide one-to-one guidance, help you with code emails, help you with what you need so you can get that fully funded scholarship. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for choosing to spend your time here with us. We really say thank you. Just to ask, did you guys enjoy this session? Give me a thumbs up. Let me know how you feel about the session. Was it worth it? Are you happy? And what do we have to say to Mr. Muyideen for coming?
Send me dollars.
You want to convert money from
Send me some dollars for the weekend.
yeah. It's not you they're supposed to be sending dollars to us. So would you like us to put your LinkedIn account so they can connect?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. So we'll put his LinkedIn account. I think we're almost done here. Put it in the community so you can connect, chat him up. But don't chat him up, don't disturb. He's a busy man. That's come to the community. You will catch him there. Ask your question. Then you go on your own. You're on your own. So thank you very much for your time. And this is where
Yeah.
we double to everyone.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. And thank you to Daniel for inviting me as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Thank you, 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 thank you. Thank you so much for joining this session. We're done. Bye-bye. Thank you. Remember to join the community so we can continue from there.